Shalom, this is Daniel Stern coming at you from the Netivyah Bible Instruction Ministry building in downtown Jerusalem. And today I'd like to share with you about some international organizations as well as an experience that I had yesterday. But let's get at it. So first of all, I have to add an amendment or correction, or it's not exactly either of those, but it's additional information about UNIFIL. UNIFIL, the United Nations force in Lebanon, which I am not a fan of, and I bashed pretty hard in previous videos. And I have to share some additional information that I recently learned. It was available always, but I got the focus of it recently and understood what it meant, which is that different United Nations forces have different mandates in different countries. This is duh, but I want to clarify what that means for UNIFIL. UNIFIL's mandate, as given to it by UN Resolution 1701, is to aid and assist the Lebanon and the Lebanese army in applying United Nations Resolution 1701, in particular as it regards to demilitarizing southern Lebanon and keeping Hezbollah forces and any armed force which is not the Lebanese army out of southern Lebanon, north of the Litani River. Now, the distinction here between, for example, the forces that were stationed in East Croatia or in East Timor is that the UN forces are here to assist the Lebanese army and not to do the job themselves. So while I'm very unhappy with what they've done or what they haven't done and what they've allowed to happen, their job is to help the Lebanese army. And if the Lebanese army chooses to do nothing, then it's not their job to do it for the Lebanese army. And that is a big distinction that is relevant and worth noting, even while I bash UNIFIL and say how terrible they are. If the Lebanese army isn't doing what they agreed to do, then, you know, UNIFIL can have some sort of a hall pass on that one. So, since I bashed them so much in the past, I felt it was necessary to add that information. Moving on. Later we'll talk about UNRWA. I think that'll be the main focus. But let's quickly pop to the ICC and the ICJ. So what are they? The ICC is the International Criminal Court. The ICJ is the International Court of Justice. Both of them are UN-related international organizations. The ICC is not actually a UN organization and is not under the UN Security Council, which means it can basically do whatever it wants. And basically the 124 countries or so that agreed to the Rome Articles, which were the founding documents of the ICC, are the ones that are bound to it. And they also allow themselves to arbitrate and judge and send out arrest warrants for any country that it affects any of the 120-some countries that have agreed to that treaty. So Israel, for example, did not agree to it. The United States has not agreed to it. Russia has not agreed to it. But the Ukraine agreed. And that's why, because the Ukraine is part of the ICC agreements, then they have allowed themselves to put out an arrest warrant for Putin. Now, what does that mean? It means that if Putin were to step in any of the countries that are part of this treaty, the Rome Articles, then they need to respect the arrest warrants and arrest him and send him to The Hague to the ICC. I'm not going to go into the ICJ now. They're the ones. The ICJ sue countries, the ICC sue people. That's pretty much the difference. The ICJ are the ones that are suing Israel on behalf of South Africa that have been paid a fortune by Iran and Qatar to cover their bankruptcy and as such agreed to sue Israel. It's all financial, but we won't go into that now either. Going back to the ICC, so the arrest warrants are out for Putin, and any of the 120-some countries in theory have to agree to hand him over. Now, within the articles, there's one article, I believe it's Article 86, which allows for the arrest warrants to be ignored if there are other diplomatic obligation that would keep them from executing the arrest warrants. For example, if there's a non-extradition, treaty between two countries, and one of the members of that country goes to a country which is part of the Rome Articles of the ICC, then they could ignore the arrest warrant by the ICC legally because of the non-extradition agreement between the two countries. So since the ICC came into being, the United States has signed over 100 non-extradition treaties in order to nullify any possible arrest warrants. So that's legal, that works, it's a loophole. Israel has only signed one with the United States at the United States' request. So in any case, the reason I'm bringing up the ICC right now is because a recent report came out that the head prosecutor in the case which is considering arrest warrants against, or has produced arrest warrants against Yoav Gallant, the Minister of Defense, and Bibi Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, has been accused of sexual misconduct by employees within the ICC. And of course, my first thought is that's the Mossad setting him up to remove him, which is very possible. But then another thought that I had, and that I heard sources for, is that the arrest warrants were meant to be a diversion from what he knew would come out to light shortly, which are the sexual misconduct allegations and accusations. That it's a chicken or egg, which came first. So some would say that the allegations are fake and are meant to remove him because of the arrest warrants, and others say the arrest warrants are him putting himself into a position where it would be expected that he'll be attacked, and he can blame the attacks on Israel's intelligence in order to get away from the sexual misconduct. You guys can make up your own minds about that. I'm just sharing information. And I know that I'm quite biased, so I'm not going to claim to be impartial and unbiased. Nevertheless, you see me exactly who I am and what I have to say, and you can make up your own minds. Moving on. Al-Jazeera. While it's not an international organization like the ICC, the ICJ, and so on, and UNIFIL, it is an international media conglomerate that is located in Qatar. Qatar is an enemy country, which is one of the largest sponsors of terror in the world, and Al-Jazeera has long been accused of being pro-Hamas, anti-Israel, Hamas apologetic, terror apologetic, and so on. Well, the IDF just revealed that 6 members of Al-Jazeera's staff, 6 people who are on salary, who are hired by Al-Jazeera, are active combatants, active members of Hamas. They're not affiliated, they're not supporting, they're active members. So that's something to take into account when people ask, and I mentioned in a previous video about the special relation between Hamas and Al-Jazeera, that Hamas directs them what to report and how to report about the Islamic Jihad's fake, false launches that caused many casualties, and so on and so forth. Well, this is just strengthening the relationship that we know is there, and I, again, am sharing the news with you and the information so you can make up your own minds. I wanted to talk about UNRWA. Recently, yesterday, in the Israeli parliament's first session of the winter sessions, law was passed in some readings. I believe it's a 3rd vote, but it could have been an earlier stage, but I think it's the 3rd one, which has made UNRWA, the UNRWA Relief Refugee Agency, a persona non grata in Israel proper, within the borders of Israel. Israeli government is no longer allowed to cooperate with them, and it has removed their diplomatic immunity. This is, as of yet, the law does not affect their operation outside of Israel proper. That would be in Judea and Samaria, in East Jerusalem, and in the Gaza Strip. So they will continue operating there, unfortunately. Now, why would I say unfortunately? Well, let's go with UN Secretary General, who is deeply concerned about the ban on UNRWA. Well, to him I would say, you should be more deeply concerned that UNRWA has become synonymous with Hamas, that their workers are Hamas members. The IDF last week killed the Hamas commander in charge of attacking the Nova Festival's bomb shelters, and he is an UNRWA worker. In Lebanon, we killed, about a month ago, we killed a high-level Hamas terrorist, the Hamas operative in charge of all their operations in Lebanon, and he is an UNRWA teacher. Yahya Sinwar, who was killed a few days ago, was found with an UNRWA ID on him. Let's just say that the UNRWA is not just a humanitarian agency that works for the betterment of all mankind. They are a deeply corrupt terrorist organization. So, Mr. UN Secretary General, you should be more concerned that your agency is a corrupt terrorist organization than that Israel has decided to, in a small way within Israel proper, limit its operation. Also, let me once again, even though I've said this in the past, clarify that there are 2 UN refugee agencies in the world. There is one for people who are supposedly refugees from Israel, from the Jewish homeland, and there is another for everyone else, for all the refugees from every other country and every other political situation are all lumped together, and there's one for the Jews. To me, that's anti-Semitism. Not only that, but this agency perpetuates the problem, keeps their status as refugees for decades and multi-generation, and does not help them to actually better their lives. What else? The UNRWA reported today that they concluded their investigation about the allegations of Israel regarding the fact that some of its members participated in the October 7th massacre. And they concluded that the allegations are untrue, there isn't any proof, Israel just provided them with a list of names, and one of 19 people that they say were accused has already returned to work. Once again, who watches the watchmen? I don't put any stock in an internal investigation by a terrorist organization who are controlled and affiliated and support the work of Hamas. All right. That's what I wanted to talk about today. UNRWA, slight additional information on UNIFIL, a bit of information on the ICC and the ICJ, and Al-Jazeera. And I just want to add that yesterday, I and 4 wonderful friends, brothers and sisters in the Lord from Oregon, went up to Rosh HaNikra, right on the border with Lebanon, and met a battalion of paratrooper reconnaissance and brought them a meal, brought them some cigarettes, vapes, tobacco. No, I'm not in favor of all that, but you know, soldiers, war, stress. I'm not going to judge them now about that. And also some kitchen gear for them, cutting boards and knives. We sat with them, we talked with them, we prayed with them. We had to run into a bomb shelter for about an hour with them. All in all, it was a really wonderful time. They did ask us for tactical gear that we'll do our best to provide. We, in the past, have also provided them with tactical gear, including helmets. But this time we were there to provide some love and support. And this is where I want to ask you guys to provide love and support to Israel, to the IDF, to Netivyah. Pray for the hostages. Pray for the government of Israel. Pray for the soldiers. Pray for protection. That's what you can do. Share the news, pray, and support. God bless you all.